Hello aspirants. Looking at current affairs for 18th December, the news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 8. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, Kolkata plans to deploy drones to fight dengue. So this is regarding the decision taken by Kolkata Municipal Corporation in West Bengal that to curb the dengue outbreak in the city, they would use high-tech drones. So drones are these unmanned UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. So they will be used to identify breeding grounds of Aedes aegypti mosquito, which spreads dengue. So about 40 people have died due to dengue in West Bengal till November 2017. So now these drones will be used mainly for rooftops of multi-story buildings and also for under construction, bridges, flyovers, etc. So they will identify places with stagnated water. So these regions are difficult to access. Even for high rises, multi-story buildings, it has been said that many a time security personnel do not allow officials from the municipal corporation to visit these places. So such drones would be used to identify the breeding grounds of Aedes aegypti mosquito and then take action. The next news item is protests in Pivara after civilian is killed in crossfire. So this is in Pivara in North Kashmir. A civilian died in an army ambush which was laid for militants. The government has ordered a magisterial inquiry and FIR has been registered by the police. It is said to be an incident of mistaken identity. But then there have been protests going on in the violent protests as such and in the Kashmir Valley, and also tear gas shells have been used in several places to contain the situation. Internet services have been suspended. Then next is reach consensus, pass women's bill, Vice President to parties. So this is Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu saying that all parties should reach consensus to pass the women's reservation bill, which has been long pending. It calls for providing 33% reservation to women in parliament and state legislatures. So this bill has not yet been passed. He also said that focus should be placed on Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao program. So we'll look in detail about both the things. First, women's reservation bill. So this women's reservation bill, it was first introduced in 1996. So it calls for a constitutional amendment. The latest one is the 108th constitutional amendment bill to provide reservation for women in parliament and state legislature, and that has also lapsed. So now a fresh effort would be required. So this first bill of 1996, it called for the same thing, 33% reservation for women in Lok Sabha and state legislatures. So here you can see it was in 1996 introduced by Deve Gowda government, referred to a joint committee, but then the bill lapsed because once if a bill is pending in Lok Sabha and the term gets over, if the Lok Sabha gets dissolved, then the bill lapses. Then it was reintroduced in 13th Lok Sabha in 1999 under Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. Again it lapsed with the House. The Lok Sabha dissolved means after 5-year term Lok Sabha dissolves. Then fresh Lok Sabha is formed, fresh elections take place. So that time the bill again lapsed. In 2004, another attempt was made by the UPA government as such. So this UPA government in 2008 finally introduced the bill in Rajya Sabha. So the significance of introducing a bill in the Rajya Sabha is that when the Lok Sabha dissolves, the bill does not lapse. So Rajya Sabha passed this bill in 2010 and was sent to Lok Sabha for ratification. So at least if it is in the Rajya Sabha, the bill does not lapses. But if it reaches the Lok Sabha and again Lok Sabha is dissolved, it did not. The Lok Sabha, 15th Lok Sabha could not take up the bill. There was no consensus amongst parties, various political parties, and again the bill got lapsed. So bill has failed to become a law till date. And this is regarding Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. So this was a program launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It was targeting both female feticide as well as education for girl child. So that was the basic target. And there have been schemes launched like Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. So this is the detail regarding that scheme also. That how an account is opened in the name of the girl child, and that money can be withdrawn as such when the girl is of age. Then next is lone great white pelican at Kolleru Lake. So this is a great white pelican, a single great white pelican has been found along with grey pelicans who visit the Kolleru Lake, which is Asia's largest freshwater lake in Andhra Pradesh. Also, this is the Atapaka Bird Sanctuary, which is located in Kolleru Lake here in Krishna district of Andhra Pradesh. So here, this is the great white pelican seen, which is said to be almost double the size of the grey pelican. So these are migratory birds which visit the region during winter. So Kolleru Lake, Asia's largest freshwater lake. You should also know it is a Ramsar site, and all the Ramsar sites in India. So Ramsar sites are these. Ramsar Convention is on wetlands. All wetlands are designated, significant wetlands are designated as Ramsar sites of international importance. So these are wetlands of international importance. So the ones from India are shown on this map. Kolleru Lake lies here in Andhra Pradesh. Then next is IF's Mi-8 chopper flies into history. So this is Indian Air Force's Mi-8, a medium lift helicopter, attack and utility helicopter, which had been procured from Russia in 1972. So it has been in service for 45 years and now it retires. It has played a significant part in Operation Meghdut, in which India captured the Siachen Glacier, and also Operation Pawan against the LTT in Sri Lanka, which was part of India-Sri Lanka Peace Accord. So these two operations also saw Mi-8 playing a significant role. It was used for humanitarian rescue and disaster relief operations. It was also used in the 2015 Chennai floods, and also for ferrying VVIPs and VIPs. So this is regarding Operation Meghdut 2 of 1984 when it was launched. So it was the first assault launched in the world's highest battlefield, the Siachen Glacier, a disputed site here, which India captured completely with Operation Meghdut. And this is regarding Operation Pawan. So Operation Pawan was launched in 1987 to capture Jaffna from LTT in Sri Lanka. So LTT was fighting for an independent homeland. They are Tamilians, Tamil origin. So India and Sri Lanka came to an accord in the Indo-Sri Lanka Peace Accord, under which Indian peacekeeping forces were sent to Sri Lanka to disarm the LTT. First negotiations were held which failed, resulting in this fight, and that is called Operation Pawan. So this resulted in Jaffna being liberated too. Then next is jail fine for distorting facts in passive euthanasia cases. So this is regarding a bill which has been introduced. So this bill is management of patients with terminal illness, withdrawal of medical life support bill. So this is called passive euthanasia. So euthanasia is that a person is made to die. So there are two forms. One is active euthanasia, another one is passive euthanasia. You should understand the difference between the two. Active euthanasia means you're giving some lethal injection or some way in which will result in the death of the patient. And passive euthanasia is that the person is on some life support, and if that life support is not provided to the patient would die. So just withdrawal of these support is said to be passive euthanasia, and actively providing some lethal injection or something will be called active euthanasia. So active euthanasia is not allowed in the country. Passive euthanasia has been permitted by Supreme Court, and now the government is passing a bill to regulate this practice. So here you can see this bill, the major provisions are discussed here. In this bill, hospitals will have to set up approval committees for considering cases of passive euthanasia, whether it can be allowed or not. And if anybody distorts facts before this approval committee, it may lead to 5 to 10 years in jail and a fine of 20 lakh to 1 crore rupees. So this is there. So panel, the approval committee, will also decide on applications of living will. So what is a living will? You should understand. It is a written document that allows patients to explicitly state their desire against life prolonging measures when recovery is not possible from a terminal condition. So terminal condition means eventually the patient is going to die. So prolonging that or delaying the death as such by life prolonging measures like life support, etc. is actually rejected. So patient can explicitly mention his desire through this living will. So will, generally what we understand, it becomes enforceable once a person dies. That is related to inheritance, property, etc. But then living will is this will, which is not valid after the death. So it is while the person is alive, a living will in which he specifically mentions what is his desire, whether he should be provided this life prolonging measures or not. So if he doesn't want, a living will would be put forth, and that also will be decided. Applications of living will be decided by the panels. So this is there. So also there are provisions in this bill for protection of competent patients who can take decisions of their future treatment, even medical practitioners and caregivers, so that a passive euthanasia will be considered as natural death. So they will not be considered guilty as such of causing death. So this is regarding the whole history behind euthanasia. Passive euthanasia is what has been allowed in the country. So this is the famous cases of Aruna Schonbach case, who was in a vegetative state for 37 years in KM hospital and finally died a natural death. So this is regarding the law in countries elsewhere also. Then next is, this is regarding a living will. So it's a directive to physicians, or it's also called advance directive. So it's a document that lets people state their wishes for end of life medical care in cases that they become unable to communicate their decisions. And this living will has no validity after that. Then next is, civil aviation may face fund crunch for Udan. So Udan is Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, a scheme which was launched by the government in 2016. So the Civil Aviation Ministry has been providing viability gap funding for participating airlines. So unserved and underserved airports are being connected. So these connectivity which is being provided, there is a bidding taking place. First round of bidding has already been done, in which 128 routes connecting 70 airports have been awarded. So after this, now second round has been initiated, but now the news is that the Civil Aviation Ministry says that we may face a fund crunch, because under this viability gap funding is provided. What is viability gap funding? You should understand the money which airlines will have to invest, because these are unserved, underserved airports. So there is not much demand in these regions. So then they will need some fund to fill in the gap, so that this business as such for them becomes viable, that they are earning, they are benefiting out of it. So this viability gap funding will be provided by the government. So 80% of viability gap funding amount comes from central government, the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and 20% from state governments concerned. But for northeastern states and union territories, the sharing ratio is 90% from center and 10% from states. So this viability gap funding amount, you should know, we have already discussed this. And the second bidding, many airlines have not even asked for viability gap funding. So that shows that they are confident that they will be able to benefit out of the regional connectivity which they will be serving. So this is regarding this regional connectivity scheme. But now Civil Aviation Ministry is raising concerns, because the viability gap funding is provided for 3 years from the date of commencement of operations. So they may not be able to procure sufficient funding for this VGF. So even this viability gap funding amount comes from a cess which is imposed on prominent routes, the popular routes as such too. So these are the details provided. So it also calls for providing subsidy for airlines for flying to domestic airports with limited connectivity, and also the price as such is capped. So fare is capped at 2,500 per hour for airlines, and for 5,000 as such for helicopters. So this is that a common man can fly through the airlines. So 50% seats are reserved at this cap, and rest is market based pricing. So here you can see. So regional connectivity fund will also be established. Then next, this is again the detail provided of this scheme, regional connectivity scheme, which is also called UDAN. So it came into effect from 1st April 2016. So basically to revive unserved, underserved airports, and also for construction of no-frill airports. So viability gap funding is provided under it. And concessions are given by central and state governments. And this is viability gap funding explained. What does it mean? So financial support provided, it's generally for infrastructure projects that government provides this funding to make the project viable, profitable. And the last news item is pair stake in PSBs to 33%, CII to government. So Confederation of Indian Industries has urged the central government to dilute its majority stake in public sector banks. So currently the limit which has been placed is of 52% ownership. That central government should have, the government should have 52% ownership in public sector banks. So CII is recommending it to come down to 33% in the next 3 years. So earlier to it was 58%, it had been brought to 52%. Now it has been called for further reduction. But it is said that actually in banks, central government, this is the minimum share which the central government should have, but maximum share goes to more than 80% also in some banks. So it has said that also for ensuring that priority sector needs are taken care of, central government can have a larger share in banks like State Bank of India, etc. But otherwise it should bring down its share to 33%. So this is how recapitalization will also be possible, as we see that public sector banks especially are suffering from non-performing assets. So there is a need for bringing in capital too, so central government can reduce its stake in the public sector banks. So this is government holding shown in top public sector banks. So you can see in central bank it has 88.63% holding. So these are the news items. Thank you.